even in the first round, let's say it's the Timberwolves. They're in trouble. That doesn't mean they're going to lose to the Timberwolves, but that's a series. And let me tell you why they're in trouble without Steph Curry. Because he is what makes Golden State Golden State. He's what you start with Steph Curry. The space he creates for everyone, all three-pointers are not created equal. The distance from which he can shoot, the handles which allow him to get to the paint and collapse the defense. What that means is there's more time for everyone to shoot. So like a 33% three-point shooter like Draymond becomes a 38% three-point shooter. And okay, maybe he shouldn't be taking too many, becomes a guy who's like, uh-oh, deadly. You got to get to that guy. Allows them to play 5 out. Pick and roll action with Draymond. Takes Steph out. Draymond doesn't see the same pick and roll action. The team doesn't function the same way. Even catch and shoot opportunities. The distance from which you have to pick Steph up, combined with his ability to collapse the defense and make decisions with the ball, even just the threat of Steph on the floor means that Klay gets catch and shoot opportunities. Not only more of them, but with more space to shoot, making him a bigger threat, him a better player. Take Steph out, Klay gets worse, Draymond gets worse. It's even statistically shown, that's all like eyeball stuff, even statistically shown that obviously KD gets worse. And if you look at Minnesota, Stephen A., let's say it's them. I'm not saying it will be, but if it is, talent for talent, they are not far behind if you take Steph off Golden State.
First of all, if I remember correctly, I think that's a subject for later on in the show. Keep that in mind. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, Max Kellerman. I love Max Kellerman. How you sit up there. This is what I do, baby. That's why I'm Stephen A. But here's the deal, Max Kellerman. It's amazing to me. These are the kind of things. I give you credit. You actually succeeded in annoying me in the first 2 minutes. Because you sit up there, Captain Obvious, and you tell, oh, Steph Curry creates spacing. Who doesn't know that? Of course he creates spacing. Of course, pick and pop, pick and roll situations with Draymond Green and everybody else. What I'm saying to you is this. You're acting like things can't be done because he's not there. What I'm saying to you is this. I understand his greatness. I understand what he brings to the table. If, Max, you're talking about a team where Steph Curry is that shooter and there are no others, I totally get your point. If Steph Curry, for example, was on the Toronto Raptors and then all of a sudden he's taken off the team, I get your point. The problem that I think you're missing is that I am stating, even though Steph Curry is not there, and that's an additional perimeter weapon who happens to be the most elite perimeter weapon in the history of basketball, I am saying to you that Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, in the game of basketball, you have two long-range snipers on the court. There is no excuse, if you are the Golden State Warriors, not to be able to still do what you do. I am not saying that they're better without Steph Curry. I need to be drug tested for implying such a thing. I'm not claiming that. I'm not claiming that losing him is not a loss. But what I'm saying to you, Max, in terms of marksmanship, they were here. Everybody else was here. Now they're here, but they're still here.
Let me ask you a question.
Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson as perimeter shooters, and there's no excuse why you shouldn't be able to do what you're doing.
Sure, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. Why do you think they've struggled since Steph went out in that case?
Would you like me to answer the question? Klay Thompson, if you recall, had gone down for a few games. Kevin Durant, if you recall, had gone down for a few games. Draymond Green, if you recall, had gone down for a few games. And it takes some time for them coming back. And it's not about getting acclimated, Max. It's about interest. When I spoke to Steve Kerr earlier this year, it was right. He was at the Garden when they played the Knicks. If you recall, he had tried to coach just a week or two earlier. He stopped coaching and he let Draymond and them coach themselves against the Phoenix Suns. Remember that big story we did there, right? What I'm saying to you is Steve Kerr talked about them having a deaf ear, them not being interested. And the point that I made to Steve Kerr and Bob Myers ultimately and Joe Lacob and those guys when I saw them in D.C. was this. When you have a team that's collectively potent, that's one thing. The problem with the Golden State Warriors is not only that they're explosive collectively, they also know they're explosive individually. So as a result, you have a laissez-faire attitude. You have a lackadaisical attitude. You don't prioritize, particularly when you've been to 3 consecutive NBA Finals, and the only team you look worried about is Houston. So you're going to sit up there and not bring your A game on many nights during the regular season, and I think that's what's happened to them over the last 20 games or so.
Klay Thompson is an all-star caliber player, and he can get his own shot. He can put the ball on the floor and make decisions, but that's not what you want him to be doing if you're Golden State. That's not where his strength is. Draymond Green is an all-star caliber player. He can bring the ball up the floor. He can do so many things. He's versatile. But just by himself, he's not an explosive offensive weapon.
Totally agree.
And Kevin
Once
Durant
again, Captain
is those
Obvious,
things,
I got you. I agree.
But he's not a point guard. They need a point guard to unlock all that stuff on that team. And not only do they have a point guard, they have the perfect point guard for their system, and he's not there. Now, when you look at other teams in the West that they'll play, because we will discuss this later, they also have MVP caliber players or players trending that way. They also have all-star players.
Trending that way. Those are key words. Trending that way.
Yeah, sure. The thing that sets Golden State apart, Steph Curry is Golden State. That's the heart and soul. That's what allows them to do what they do. Draymond Green is the second most important player in terms of their identity as a team. KD puts them over the top. Like, Klay Thompson makes them impossible. KD puts them over the top, right? But it's Steph who is the real identity of that team.